The EU Green Deal is raising ambition, and the concern with this new raised ambition is that we could see what's called carbon leakage, which is when the production of certain goods shifts abroad, and this is because those goods would be subject to standards and a carbon price in the EU, but they wouldn't be subject to the same thing when they're being produced elsewhere. And this is especially important for certain goods such as cement and steel. And so the goal of a EU border carbon adjustment mechanism is to level the playing field between European producers and foreign producers. So if you're importing something into the EU, it would be subject to the same standards and the same carbon tax that European producers are.
In our study, we assessed the implications of an EU carbon border adjustment mechanism on countries across the world, using a newly designed index that takes into account country exposure and vulnerability. And we found that effects are unevenly distributed across the world. Countries that are strongly associated with the EU, like for example Ukraine, are at high risk. And we also found that a number of countries in the African continent can be also highly impacted. And this includes, for example, Morocco and Mozambique.
In our analysis, we conducted in-depth country studies which highlighted the various drivers of high risk levels. For instance, carbon lock-in in Morocco, a low trade diversification coupled with a high trade dependence on the EU for some countries in southeastern Europe, such as Bosnia and Herzegovina, and low statistical capacity to measure, report, and verify emissions, as in the case of Mozambique.
So far, the CBAM revenues are earmarked for the general EU budget, but the EU would actually be well advised to spend parts of the CBAM revenues to support countries that are especially impacted by the CBAM, such as very vulnerable developing countries, in their decarbonization measures. It could, for example, focus its technical assistance programs on sectors that are affected by the CBAM, such as the steel and aluminum sector worldwide.